Johnson, the new president. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's doing great. So we're going to start the meeting with some regular business. So first of all, we're going to go into the treasurer's report. So Mia, are you ready to come on?
Okay. As of yesterday, we have 84 members who have renewed or signed up as of September 1st. So we're definitely looking for more members. In terms of our bank account, we have $3,069.42 for all of our general expenses like streaming and everything. Now, in terms of the Bergen Arches, that money is somewhat restricted, purpose restricted, because the fundraising was for the Bergen Arches, so it's not supposed to be used for general expenses. It's $30,245.03. And then the Bergen Square account, which was postponed from last year and will be held in October, has $5,485.33. So any profits from that will eventually go into the general fund. So in total, we have $38,799.78. That's it.
Thank you, Mia. Appreciate it. Hope you're doing well today.
Same here. Yes.
Our next item of business is we're going to discuss the February meeting minutes. They were included as a link in the newsletter. We're just going to say that they were approved by unanimous consent. And as a member, if you don't want to adopt the minutes as they stand right now, you can email hello@JSQCA.com to, explain your reasoning and then we will address it. So once again, welcome. We are streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Comments will be accepted. We will be able to see them in a chat box. So yeah, for now, we are waiting for the speakers to arrive. This morning, we do have Stacey Flanagan. She is the director of Jersey City Health and Human Services. She'll be joining us. And then later in the hour, Soraya Hebron, the Chief Officer of the Jersey City Office of Diversity and Inclusion, will be joining us. So, hi, we have Paul is a member of Stacey's office. He's here. And Paul, if you want to introduce yourself, as Stacey is on her way, we can start with Paul. Welcome. Good morning. How are you? Hi, you are muted right now.
Unmute is still my word of the year. It's persisted. Good morning. I'm glad to be here. Jersey City Health and Human Services, and also a neighborhood resident. So, and Stacey is on her way and should be joining shortly. I believe that probably what you want most to hear about from me is our work with homeless outreach at Journal Square. And so let me give you a brief update on that. We have been able to gradually expand our service, and we're now running 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., which are the hours we find from our customers, our residents, the hours where they most want it, especially the early morning hours. We have been developing our relationships and procedures with some of our community partners, especially Garden State Episcopal, the Jersey City Medical Center through its MASH program for support for people experiencing homelessness, especially around mental health, and also the newly formed Keith to help really work on one of the missing pieces, which is the connection of people experiencing homelessness to services which are available. And slow but steady progress on that front. We have also something coming along, which is going to be a welcome addition. We have contracted for 2 health buses, which are currently under construction. These are retired school buses, but still in good condition, which we are retrofitting to be mobile shower stations, mobile health stations, which will include showers, toilet, washer, dryer, and also a consulting room where we can do individual meetings, health testing, housing counseling, whatever's needed. One of these, the plan is to have one of them replace the shower unit, which is currently at Journal Square, and the other will be a truly mobile unit to travel from place to place around the city on a regular schedule, because we know that Journal Square is not the only place in our city where homelessness is seen on the street. That's kind of the highlights from that work. So let me pause and see where else we need to go.
Thank you for that summary. I guess right now we are still waiting for Stacey, and I just want everybody, you welcome full participation, so feel free to drop any questions in the chat and we will make a point to answer them. So
Hey, Jovina, it's Kevin.
Kevin.
I'm on the boards behind the scenes making this happen, but I did have a question for Paul that I thought he might be able to address. How has the COVID crisis impacted homelessness on the square? Have we seen more people experiencing homelessness? What has the city been doing to try and help protect such an at-risk population from the pandemic?
Well, thank you. Yeah, we have seen several things. In the initial months, when things were largely closed and shut down, we saw a slight decrease in the number of people there. I mean, yeah, and I say slight, I really mean slight. It was kind of steady state. Since that time, we have seen a pretty regular increase in the number of folks who present and either identify themselves as homeless or are just there in the area regularly. We are still in the time when the Kearney Warming Center is open, and some folks make use of that as a nightly shelter. But as the weather gets warmer, it will likely close, and we'll probably see more street homelessness. Right where I sit, we're really doing two particular things to protect these folks. The first is the first is really what we're doing. We're offering the sanitation services, coupled with the encouragement to access other services, especially health and housing related. We know that housing is healthcare, so that when people are stably housed in safe places, their health improves. That's just that's a given. The other thing that we're particularly doing when it comes to COVID is we are constrained by what we can do by the state eligibility requirements, and also what the state allows in terms of distribution of vaccines. With the arrival of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, the state is designating those for vulnerable populations. We have only a small supply of those so far, which we are first prioritizing to homebound seniors through our Meals on Wheels program. That is an individual visit to these folks with a nurse to administer the vaccine and an EMT to deal with any immediate adverse reactions. Once we work through those, the people experiencing homelessness are our next vulnerable population to target. Some will probably go elsewhere too, but it is our plan to set up a vaccination station at Journal Square, line up people ahead of time so we can get everyone at the same time with one shot, because when people are living rough, it's tough to make consistent appointments. So the Johnson & Johnson would be a great intervention there because it's one and done. On Kevin, I know you're asking about the wider front of really helping assure stable housing for all. And I think when it comes to the people who have already become homeless, we're finding that the major opportunity in front of us is that there are housing vouchers available, not a huge number, but a real number. And it is just proving surprisingly difficult to get people from where they are into the position of actually working with the social service agencies, usually Garden State Episcopal, to make that real. I think some of your membership can speak to that, but that is really the goal of having the continuous 7-day presence at the square and expanding our ability to reach people. And with the private consulting room in the health buses, I think we plan to make that the single greatest focus of what we do. And really our measure of success is how many people come through, not just for a shower, but for something which helps them take the next step in life to get to a safer, healthier, better place.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We actually had a couple of questions come in the last few days and actually this morning. So the first one is, what are we doing for the improvement of minority participation enrolling in the vaccine program in our state? Is there any efforts there?
Yeah. So just to be clear, we're the city health department. So our responsibility is to Jersey City only. Our numbers are pretty good in terms of equity. Not great, but pretty good. The thing that we're doing right now, most specifically, is we aggressively pursued an opportunity from the state to partner with FEMA to bring an additional 3,000 vaccines into Jersey City to be distributed through our faith communities. Today we are halfway through that 2-week program. So we are in fact giving vaccinations at this very moment, only a block from where I'm sitting. And our outreach, while we went to all our faith communities, we specifically focused on African American and Hispanic congregations because we know they have been harder to reach populations nationally, and we wanted to make sure that we gave every opportunity to bring them into our program. Our numbers are really good. We are fully subscribed through the first week. So we will have administered by the end of the day more than 2,000 vaccinations, and those are going, again, they're well distributed demographically, reflecting Jersey City's diversity. But our site is located right at the boundary of wards B and F, 1 block from Martin Luther King Drive, and I think that is our primary focus right now. And everything we do going forward really is aimed at making sure that this vaccine, which is life-preserving, is available to every Jersey City resident. We see that, pardon me, you hear in the news that President Biden has said that every state is required to make eligibility requirements disappear as of May 1st. More vaccines are coming down the pipe, And we just want to make sure that this opportunity is available to everyone. Since we also know that there is some vaccine hesitancy, we have several things that we're working on. Our health education team does regular briefing sessions virtually with community groups, faith communities, to give accurate vaccine information. And we are also working with a group in the state who is surveying vulnerable populations and groups that are known to have lower rates of vaccine adoption, not just for COVID-19, but for other vaccinations as well, to do some focus groups and surveys aimed at making sure that we well understand what people say are the barriers to vaccination, so that when we reach out, we're reaching out with that in mind, with credible messengers, community-based organizations and leaders to help, again, deliver accurate information so that people can make really informed decisions.
Thank you for that. We have another question. So a member is saying it is their understanding that nearly 50% of the Jersey City residents do not report English as their primary language. So information should be available, just translated information. It seems like our website is only in English. So any comment on that?
So yes, and thank you for that. This has been one of our consistent challenges because Jersey City is diverse in language as well. On our Health and Human Services website, healthierjc.com, built into that site is a translation feature. So that site is available in almost every language spoken in Jersey City. The city website I know is undergoing some redesign. I don't have the status on that or language availability through that site. Stacey would be better prepared to answer that. I will say that our interpretive materials that we distribute, we have prioritized in 3 languages: English, Spanish, and Arabic, which are the big 3 in Jersey City. And at our faith-based FEMA program, if you were to walk in there right now, you would see FEMA and AmeriCorps staff wearing tags indicating their language availability. There are posters and interpretive materials at every station in a wide variety of languages. Unfortunately, we get to keep those, and we'll be using them at our, if you will, Jersey City run sites. And to the extent we can, making that part of our outreach.
Thank you for that. So we have one other participant wondering, what can Jersey City, in a volunteer effort, what can they do to help Jersey City residents?
Mm-hmm. Oh, great question. We are in a little bit of a tough spot because we love volunteers. Stacey and I both volunteer in our lives outside of work. This is part of what makes our community vibrant. However, in the pandemic, we have been encouraging volunteers to work smartly, and most of our programs, when it comes to vaccination at least, for a variety of reasons, need to be staffed, not with volunteers. The one thing I would cite the most right now, well, I'll just say 2 things. One, we love volunteers who are organized, so work with a group, whether that's a faith community, a nonprofit, a neighborhood association, maybe like the Journal Square Community Association. Volunteer efforts are magnified when they're organized. The second thing is, since we know that We don't fully know the dimensions of how difficult it will be to vaccinate 90% or better of Jersey City. We don't really know where the end point will be on when people just say no way. So just as a kind of informal basis, I would encourage if you have made your own decision that the vaccine is safe and effective, encourage your neighbors and friends and all those you're connected to just make sure to get in line and take it as soon as it's available to them. Nationally and in the state, the doors are going to be wide open soon. So once we get everybody who is a firm yes in the door, I think that's the time when we can start looking harder at how to bring in those others. But really, that is a matter of trust, not only trust in the science and the vaccine, but trust in each other. And you know people that I don't know that trust you and trust your opinions and trust your recommendations. So the greatest asset we see to full vaccine adoption is really this community effort of friends encouraging friends to take this important step, both for their own personal health, but also for our whole community health. I'm sure Stacey will be able to say a lot more about volunteerism and the way we are really looking forward to the flourishing of it as it becomes safer and safer to gather in the ways that we were used to, a year ago. So now is the time to prepare, but necessary first step is really getting to that baseline of safety where we have a well-vaccinated population.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. And I think we're all looking forward to that for sure. I'm helping out. This is Kevin, by the way. I'm helping out Jovina with the questions. We do have one from Joe on YouTube who asks, does CVS provide any vaccinations in Jersey City? So can you talk about the pharmacy program and why that might be a little bit different than what Jersey City itself is doing?
Only in a very basic way. Our director is really on top of and her the job that takes up a super majority of her time right now really is the vaccination program in all its dimensions. When it comes to the pharmacy programs, I only know what I read in the paper. And what CVS and Walgreens email me about. I do know they have some availability, but I couldn't tell you how much, what it is. We are really 100% focused on making sure that we as a health department have the capacity to run a robust and accessible vaccine program. And we think that the larger sites are the way to get to have the most impact and to get the most vaccines out quickly. I'll just say a little more on that right now. We've got 3 sites that are open in 3 different areas of the city. The Bethune Center in the south, the Collier Center kind of in the middle, but still on the south side. That's where we're doing the FEMA program now, but that will become a city site when the FEMA program ends. And PS 26 in the Heights, which is, and Ferris High School. All PS 26 will open next week, so I guess that's 4 sites. So one covering downtown Journal Square-ish, the second cover, and then the PS 26 in the Heights is really, it's in the lower Heights, so it's also accessible to Journal Square. And as soon as we have made some real headway in vaccinating our teachers to support school reopening, that will become a public site. Our vision really is to have a site in every corner of the city, and whatever you can get through your private providers, your primary care doctor, the pharmacies, to us, that is just an addition. So, you would have to, unless Stacey has something more on that, I would say you just have to call your local CVS or Walgreens to check on their availability and get on their waiting list. We know that people have registered for multiple lists, and we just say take the first available. That's the way to get your shot out of the way and open the door for the next person.
All right, thank you, Paul. It sounds like Stacey is getting connected, but before that, we have one more question on homelessness that I wanted to address that came up early in the chat. It's from Caitlin. Do you know about a program that would reimburse the county for housing people in vacant hotel rooms?
So yes, so the initial program was the CARES Act. The county made great use of that. So in the spring of last year, we were in regular, and when I say regular, I mean daily communication with them as the county reconfigured its homeless sheltering system in a way to maximize safety for the people it served. And they moved people to for reasons of safety. So they continued to operate the ordinary shelters, although it reduced capacity to assure appropriate distance and safety. People who tested positive for COVID-19 went to a specific shelter where they could have much closer monitoring and access to medical care. And then people who were not positive but at higher risk, so the older individuals or people with the chronic health conditions, were given motel rooms. All of that is CARES Act eligible, and I am sure that the county did all their reimbursement paperwork to make that happen. The newly passed Recovery Act from the Biden administration is going to provide additional funding in the same basic veins to allow local governments to seek reimbursement for their COVID-related services. So we are not, we have never thought that money is the principal barrier to safety and health in this pandemic. And the city and county both have just taken the lead to say we are going to do what we have to enhance safety and health. And and so far that has not been much of a problem.
All right, thank you, Paul. Let's see if we have any other questions in the chat on homelessness and the unhoused population on the square, since I know that's your area of expertise. You had mentioned the future of the showers. Is there any other plans for that in and around the square and outreach services as the weather gets warmer?
So we stepped in to kind of address what we're seeing as gaps pre-pandemic and then expanded in the pandemic era. I think we currently have the commitment to really to trying to help make connections between the people who are living on the street and services which are available. We have helped the Housing Authority and Garden State Episcopal plan and are beginning to execute on developing a greatly expanded and much nicer drop-in center at the Garden State offices at 514 Newark, across from Dickinson High School. That is well underway. So we view the principal thing that we can do, the two principal things are that we can help supplement the outreach through these health buses and help get people to the services or bring the services to them. We don't have the ultimate answer here, which is really housing. But what we can do is work as hard as possible on the coordination of services and make sure that that the main providers are in regular contact on a case basis to make sure that any given individual gets really gets the effort needed to access what's available to them. When we started the work, and we're continuing to do ongoing surveys of the folks that we see at Journal Square, and I don't know that there are any great surprises, but we do have data which suggests that a majority of folks are older. A large majority of folks are long-term Jersey City residents. A majority have mental health issues, including trauma, and substance use issues, and also a majority report not having benefits that are truly available to them, even at the basic level of Medicaid and supplemental nutrition assistance, so food support. And so we think that making those connections is a really great step for the individual, but it also helps start them on the journey to saying, what else is available? What else can I get? What else can help me? How do I get into housing? How do I get the income support which can make my life better? And that's how we see the focus of our work until there are expanded other services, particularly housing. Once we fill up every available housing placement, then we will have to make sure that that's the next focus. But and I believe that my director is on, and I'm going to hand the floor back to our moderators.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Stacey. How are you?
Good. I'm sorry about that. I thought it would be really cool to show you one of our vaccine sites in action, and my phones did not allow me to get on to the restream from there, so I had to drive on over to the office. So sorry about that.
We appreciate your time just the same. We already have a question. Did you have a quick intro? Did you have anything you wanted to
So to be very clear, Adam, thank you for the question. There has actually been zero budget cuts to the Department of Health and Human Services. I don't know how people interpret the city budget. Majority of the money for Health and Human Services comes directly from grants, so you never see that on the city budget. The city budget shows you tax dollars needed for programs. There is we spend about $12 million annually through COVID. 100% of our COVID money was directly reimbursed from the federal government. So it wasn't a budget cut in the city. It was, we didn't use the city tax dollars because the federal government provided us direct reimbursement for those funds. So I think people think these things when we, it's not a budget cut. In fact, we spent $7 million on just testing last year. We spent about another $1 million on extra staffing. All of that, various staff from across the city came to help the health department with a call center, driving Meals on Wheels vehicles. Our Meals on Wheels tripled. That is 75% funded by the federal government. So as those dollars increase, because we're currently in a state of emergency, these emergency provisions are made and are directly reimbursed. So it's not a budget cut implemented by the mayor nor the city council in the middle of a pandemic. That's completely inaccurate. It is, we're not using tax levy dollars because 100% of our funds are being covered through somewhere else. And in fact, we spent significantly, almost twice our budget in the past year. Similar now with the vaccines. We put about $1.5 million in a holding pattern for vaccines because we didn't know how much money FEMA was going to be giving us, and what we and how the Hudson Reporter reports is not clear nor accurate is what I'm telling you very clearly. And so we're going to get reimbursed $15 million for our vaccine program. And therefore that $1.5 million we asked the council to carve out of the city budget will not have to be used. In addition, any of my staff working related to vaccines won't be charged against the city budget. It'll be charged against the dollars from the ARP that was just passed last week, which is, you know, possibly giving the city of Jersey City $148 million to offset cost. And it's an offsetting from grants. And because we raised on our own slightly over $1 million in grants during COVID, we were able to offset our requests from the city. So just want to make that very clear that the city didn't cut our budget. I found other resources to give that money back to other city needs so you guys can get more potholes filled and things like that.
The response is, you know, we really appreciate you clarifying that and offering an explanation.
Yeah, and the same thing, just to be clear about recreation. The recreation staff was loaned to Health and Human Services and therefore paid out of the CARES Act money. And that's why you saw a decrease in recreation, because I was paying them and it was completely reimbursed by the federal government. And in fact, they all got double time and overtime and all of their essential worker pay, but that money didn't have to be charged to the taxpayer. We have tax levy dollars that we spend, and then we have grant dollars. You don't see the grant dollars on a city budget.
Thank you for clarifying. Kevin, do you see more questions popping up for Stacey?
Well, I know we had a lot of questions about the vaccine and the vaccine program, and I'm sorry we did not get the tour of the vaccine site. I think that would have been really valuable.
Hopefully you will soon. At least the president says by May 1st.
Yeah, I would love to see it in person for sure. Yeah.
And by then, some things. So I'm looking at Sumit's question about disaggregated data on various Asian populations affected by COVID. I will tell you, this is quite accurate. In the beginning of COVID, people under investigation, PUIs is what they're called, were primarily South Asians that were traveling from various locations back to the US. And that was sort of the first foray into making sure that we were testing people. And those were people that were getting tested and or quarantining. Then what we saw with the significant amount of racism related to the Asian population, we were finding it difficult to convince people to get tested. And in fact, I'm not sure, how much you knew about me trying to convince Councilman Yoon to get tested, but he felt very uncomfortable getting tested because he felt strongly that there was a very high level of racism against Asians during that time. So we don't have as accurate information as we would like, because a lot of this population was in fact in fear of being tested. And so we worked really hard with a lot of different community groups to increase the level of testing. But yes, there is a disproportionate amount of knowledge base, and oftentimes what you might know and some issues that the state had is in hospitals and in doctor's offices, they don't often ask the patient like their race, and because you need to self-identify, you can't presume a race of an individual. And so in the very beginning of testing, we didn't feel comfortable also asking people their race over the phone, because we also didn't want that to reflect people saying like, forget it, I don't want to be tested. So in the very beginning of COVID, we didn't have as much or as significant ethnic and race data as we do now, but still there's still an increased level of racism against Asians and a lot of fear of testing. And so we've been working with groups in Newport. We've been working with groups up in Journal Square, trying to move the meter on that. It's really difficult. Bill, you asked when people 50 and over will be able to sign up. It's whenever the governor tells us. Oftentimes, like Paul said earlier, I was watching because I couldn't log in. We find out when other people find out. In fact, right now we are doing second vaccine appointments at the Bethune today. We started our BOE soft opening today at the Collier Center. Specifically, I'll talk about vaccinating undocumented populations and vaccine outreach to South Asians. We have mini grants out. We've been working with a team of doctors that are South Asian that are offering to go door to door in neighborhoods to do some outreach. We actually have been working with clergy from across the city. Paul may have mentioned that. We've been working with over 150 clergy. Some of them are, Hindi, Buddhists, and specifically reaching out to those leadership to get more people into the vaccine sites that are eligible. So what the eligibility is right now is 65 and older, a series of chronic health issues, police, fire, healthcare workers. And then we were told that March 15th, the teachers were going to be open, educators. And then the president said, oh no, educators should start being vaccinated today. And when you have people already making appointments and doing that kind of work, you can't really accommodate the same day, learning from, the governor that instead of waiting till March 15th, parts of the state started opening. And if there was no wait list, teachers could get right in. What we saw was we were working in a very coordinated effort with the BOE. Only people that are getting vaccinated complete a survey with the BOE. If they work for the BOE, they have to respond to the survey. They get put on a list. We call them directly. We put them in an appointment. We've received about 1,500 names from the BOE to date. The mayor promised 2,000 vaccines this week to BOE. And in fact, we did not get 2,000 appointed to us by the state. However, we had 1,800 given to us through FEMA. And I've been fighting all week for some J&J, which are designated right now for seniors 65 and older living in senior housing and or are homebound. We still felt that wasn't enough. And then the state yesterday said, what else can we do for you? And we're like, look, if you've got Pfizer, give us Pfizer. Give us whatever you have. We want everything you have because we will get it in the arms of everyone we can take. So specifically, I'm going to just roll down what I see. So specifically, Jan, there's not one way to vaccinate undocumented, but we do have our vaccine information in multiple languages. We gave a mini grant to Welcome Home to help us with that support. We gave a mini grant to the VFW because we're seeing veterans don't want to wait for the VA. So we were just trying to encourage that. We've given a few mini grants, and then we have this group of doctors, South Asian doctor cadre that's working with us, doing door-to-door knocking in the Journal Square area. We only have 1,500 teachers signed up on our list. We'll get them all vaccinated next week because we've dedicated 100% of our vaccines to those teachers. The FEMA project is specific and different, and we are also opening up, because the governor said to open up the rest of public safety. So all of the city staff that are part of public safety that are not sworn officers, that you're like inspectors, quality of life people who have not been vaccinated yet, will be on the list for next week through a different portal of vaccines. So whenever the governor tells us we can serve people 50 and over, we'll do that. The number right now is 201-373-2316. We are actively reaching out to all of our immigrant organizations because we have a division of immigrant affairs here. Our website's in 4 languages right now. We're working on our next tier of languages in Gujarati and Creole French and a few others. So right now,
real quick, can
yeah.
you just tell us, can you read that number again and tell us what it's for?
Yeah. 201-373-2316 is the city's call-in center for vaccines. So we'll only serve eligibles, and they and so you can call, and we prefer the individual call. There's actually a lot of problems with these volunteer groups that are taking Social Security numbers of seniors and using them, and there's been a lot of theft of identity throughout COVID. So we're really telling seniors, call us directly. We will take care of you. We will send you an Uber. We've got this. We've got 30 people now at our call-in center. We purposefully have a call-in center because we're also seeing people hack into calendars, and we are not seeing a lot of people against taking the vaccine. In fact, we are very happy to see a lot of people interested in the vaccine. Some people were just waiting for a particular vaccine, and so we're trying to get every single vaccine into Jersey City, because originally we were just a Moderna site. As of last Wednesday, we became a J&J location. It's limited, so we're working specifically with our homebound seniors on Meals on Wheels, and then senior housing. Primarily through Housing Authority right now because of access. And then as we get more, we'll have more. But we're not seeing a lot of people saying we're absolutely against it. We're seeing a few people say, I'll wait. They're now starting to see their friends and family get vaccinated, and then they're calling. I mean, we got almost 4,400 calls yesterday to the vaccine site.
Hey, Stacey, this is Kevin again. There was a question earlier about going to CVS or a local pharmacy.
Yes.
Can you talk about that program?
Yes. There is a Rite Aid program, CVS program, and a Walgreens program. The Walgreens program was designated for long-term care facilities, specifically nursing homes. When the nursing home vaccines were not coming in as rapidly as we hoped, they allowed Walgreens to do on-site activities. And so Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid are designated partners of the federal government. So that's not necessarily run through the municipal arm. Rite Aid has an open pod right in Journal Square, 26 Journal Square. And that location was open as a closed pod, which means a specific group of people. That group of people were home health care aides from all over the county. Now that they've completed majority of the home health care aides, that site has now been opened for any eligible in the state of New Jersey, which also is confusing because people with greater propensity to use the internet are grabbing these appointments here in Jersey City because they're open, because a lot of our city has a bit of a digital divide, which is why we were pushing for more call-in centers. The state has now followed suit with us. They have opened a call-in center, and And in the beginning of this process, the online system was breaking down from the state. We were like, we don't want to be affiliated with that. And now it's working a little bit better, but there's a lot of hiccups. And so we're just trying to improve that. So on our website, jcnj.org/vaccines, we list all of the Rite Aids, CVS's, and all of the federally qualified health centers and private health facilities that are in multiple counties that have had access to vaccines. So if you are a client of Vanguard Medical Group, if you're a client of Riverside Medical Group, if you are a client of Metropolitan Health, of Alliance Health, of North Action Health Center, all of those locations are reaching out directly to their population, people who have gone to them before, and are saying, we see that you're eligible for a vaccine. Why don't you come on in? All of them are getting very limited amounts of vaccines right now, maybe 200, 250 a week. In addition to that, Jersey City Medical and Christ Hospital are getting vaccines. What they're doing if they get J&J, they're giving out J&J for people that are in the ER that might need an immediate surgery. So there's specific policies right now around the J&J. We're giving J&J to homebound. Christ Hospital is serving with vaccines to people who have gone through their community health clinic. So all of these locations are what we considered closed pods. So they're not open to the public. They're open to their direct constituency that have gone to them before for medical treatment. And so that's why when people call us and say, I have a medical issue, we say, well, your medical doctor probably can give you a vaccine. Why don't you call them so we can focus on our seniors? Because we have 20,000 seniors in Jersey City, and some weeks we only got 300 vaccines. Some weeks we got 500. This past week we got 1,500. Next week we're getting 1,700. So, we can only do so much with the number of vaccines we get. The state requires us to use the vaccine. 75% of the total dosage we receive has to be used within 72 hours of receipt. We have never thrown out a vaccine. We do not give out to anyone at the end of the day. We have a very long list of eligible populations. We target very clearly. We are professionals at this. We are actually also getting angel doses, is what they call them, is extra vaccine in some of the vials, not all of the vials. Some you might get 11, some you might get 12. All of them have at least 10. So when we get 70 vaccines, we might be able to get 73 or 77 out of those vaccines. We're getting every drop out of our vaccines. We've not thrown away a single dose, and we've not given a dose to anyone waiting outside. Please do not go and wait outside. We will not communicate with you. We will not let you in if you don't have an appointment. We value appointments, and when people don't show up within the first 15 minutes, we have another team calling them. And if they tell us they can't come, we have another team calling people next on the list. We do not have anything left over. We consider that vaccine vulturing, and we just don't want to participate in it because we think that that really hurts the eligibility and the integrity of the program. I have been going, Jan, just as an FYI, I have been meeting every minute I get with every neighborhood association. They've never invited me before. Actually, this neighborhood association invites me so much to the meetings, I feel very honored, but most neighborhood associations don't invite me. They tend to invite people that are not doing the work, and they don't have all the full information. So yes, besides teachers, who else were we vaccinating? All school staff. Anyone that has signed up ASAP. Cafeteria workers have been vaccinated prior because they're considered healthcare workers. But guidance counselors are healthcare workers. They have also been offered vaccines prior. They were first on the list in December, along with the school nurses. So anyone that's working in the school is eligible for vaccine. They just have to follow the protocol that's set forth by the BOE. We've also been working with the charter schools, just in case someone has that question. Directly, the charter schools are directly sending to me the list of their direct staff. They're coming on site and working with me for the hour or 2 hours that their staff are getting vaccinated. And we only have so many vaccines in a week, but we are making sure that everything we have is dedicated to the teachers. Obviously, we've been working with this amazing FEMA program. We're the first in the nation, the state of New Jersey, to have this FEMA project. It's a community-based vaccine program. This stems out of some great work from the governor's office. Because we invited the governor to see the work that we were doing at the Bethune Center, they came back to us and said, we're going to give you 3,000 vaccines over 2 weeks. We're going to come back 4 weeks later, do it again. We're going to bring in our Department of Defense along with FEMA, and we're going to run a site for you. And we said, that sounds great. They're like, how about tomorrow? So, it took a little bit of time. Paul and his team were in charge of this particular program because it directly reflected our faith-based efforts. We had been working with our faith-based community throughout all of COVID. We have monthly calls with them and the mayor. We update them on all of the executive orders from the governor. We provide them PPE and other tools for cleaning. And we've just been asking for their help and support to ensure that we can get the information out to everybody in need.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. We're gonna wrap it up now, but we appreciate all the information that you've given us. We're definitely sending out the phone number and the website you gave us, and you've just hit every point. So thank you for your time today. And I'm sure a lot of people will.
Yes, again, I'm sorry I was late. I thought we'd get you to see one of the vaccine sites, and I just had to come to the office and get on the computer instead. It wasn't working.
No,
but,
we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully we get you all scheduled soon enough.
Yes, thank you. You've done a great job. Appreciate it. Thank you, Paul. I think that's in the back. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
All right. Great. Take care.
Next, we're going to talk with Soraya Hebron. Soraya, please introduce yourself. You're ready.
Hello, everyone. My name is Soraya Hebron. I'm the director of the Jersey City Office of Diversity and Inclusion. That's pretty much my introduction, but I can talk about the office, of course, but is there anything else we want to get into or cover first?
No, well, I had that one question I sent you in advance that one of our members was nice enough to send in advance. Did you want to first of all go into your office and diversity board, and then we'll get into the Q&A?
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Jovina, for the invitation. As you know, Stacey said, it's very rarely that I do get a community association to invite me to speak, but I always welcome the opportunity. As I said, I'm the director of the Jersey City Office of Diversity and Inclusion. The office was created in 2016 in result of the city's purchasing disparity study that happened in 2007. So the office kind of came out of the concern around supplier diversity, the city spending enough money with minority, women, and veteran-owned firms. And so this project was launched or started in 2007, completed in 2011. And in 2015, Mayor Fulop sort of dusted off this report that was conducted and assembled a group, and they created a strategic plan. And within that strategic plan, there were steps on how the city can improve its supply diversity along with other diversity and equity initiatives. And the Office of Diversity and Inclusion came out of that strategic plan. And so fast forward to 2016, the office was created, and the office primarily focused on diversity in construction contracts and public contracting, and conducted, outreach to small businesses and local subcontractors. I joined in 2018, and in 2018, we, wanted to sort of rebrand, but also expand the scope of the office. And so we branched out and sort of added 2 other categories that we've started to work on, but would like to make some more headway on in the future. We started working on workplace inclusion with HR, and then also doing a bit of workforce diversity with trying to spread the word about, current job opportunities both within the city and with, organizations that are trying to focus on hiring locally. The bulk of our work, though, over the past 2 or 3 years has been improving the city's supplier diversity. We actually just finished a second version of the purchasing disparity study, which needs to be redone every 3 to 5 years, so we can target and be clear about, where we are in terms of our supply diversity spend, and be strategic with our planning and policies moving forward. So we finished the report, which was done in partnership with Rutgers Business School. We finished it at the beginning of this year, and so we are actually in the process of creating an action plan on how the city can improve its supplier diversity. Just to give you a bit of background, so in 2018, when I say diverse supplier, where we're talking about businesses that are 51% or more owned by underserved communities. So we're thinking about communities of color, women, veterans, the LGBT community, and people with disabilities. And so in 2018, the city spent $16.5 million out of its goods and services spend with diverse suppliers. It increased slightly to $16.6 million, and now in 2020, we reached $19.4 million. So we saw a steady, slight increase in our utilization of diverse suppliers over the past few years. And so this action plan and engagement that we're going to do over the next few weeks is going to guide us to improve our policies, improve accountability, and overall make sure that businesses are comfortable with navigating the procurement process. So about each year, the city spends probably close to $100 million in goods and services. You think of everything that that city government buys, we need to get from someone. And so we try to find and connect relevant businesses with opportunities. How we do that, we have a directory on our website, which is jcnj.org/ODI for the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. We have our supplier diversity directory, which contains businesses that are interested in working with us and meet one of the criteria that I mentioned. We also host a semi-annual event called Doing Business with Jersey City. 1 second, I'm gonna pause and just get my charger. My notification came up. Don't want my computer to die. Okay, there we go. We host Doing Business with Jersey City twice a year, which is generally a large scale event when we are not in COVID, where business owners can come and network, also meet our purchasing staff, meet some of the department end users that are going to actually be buying services, and learn about our needs. And we also attend events that are sponsored by, local anchor institutions and partners throughout the state, really, that are advancing supplier diversity as well. So PSEG, NJIT and their PTAC Center, the state of New Jersey, all have, conferences to promote and connect diverse suppliers and diverse businesses. And so those are the kind of things that we do to try and advance supplier diversity. Internally with human resources, we have worked with our fire department to come up with goals for improving diversity within the fire department, and also some strategies for outreach to improve diversity there. And so what we hope to do in the future is expand that to other departments in the city. And so I'm going to stop there. And if anyone has any specific questions, I can do my best to answer.
Okay. Well, you mentioned that you also, I guess, partner with HR. So, so one of the questions that came up, I'm sorry if you can bear with me 1 minute. Well, okay, actually, this is pertaining to a different area. Yesterday, very recently, there was an explosion near the Heights. I don't know if you're aware of that. So, from what we understand, alerts were sent out and tweeted, but all communications were in English. So, with such a diverse community that we have, and that English is not their first language, is there a way that the city can start sending out these alerts in multiple languages? Like, is that somewhere in your efforts to kind of reach our diverse population?
And so the social media team, so to answer it shortly, that would not fall under my office's direct responsibilities. That would be a part of our communications team, which manages our social media and manages all communication that comes out of the mayor's office and that department. It is something that I try to think of myself as an advocate, and then also a connector. So if I do find out about concerns or requests like this, I do my best to forward that information. So I'll definitely share that with our press secretary and our director of communications. We have had conversations about at least within the purchasing supply diversity, but even for our events, we always try to put out communications at least in English and Spanish. But we know that in Jersey City, there are over 70 languages, that are spoken by residents. So in terms of emergency, information and announcements like that, I definitely agree that that's important. So I will share that, information.
Okay. And we had another question about Mayor Fulop has said that he's his city is the most diverse in the nation, but the top ranking staff are not really that diverse. So the report said that 76% of Fulop's administration was white, and our population is about 22% white. So can you just speak to the disparity and how the Office of D&I can help kind of get more diversity within our city's leadership and administration itself?
So I would encourage, so that is a direct question, for the mayor's office. From my perspective, I think the report that I believe you're talking about that Terrence Thomas did, it does focus on the the department directors of the city. I agree that, we need to take steps to improve our diversity and leadership. But if you look at the diversity of our division directors, and then there are a lot more divisions, of course, than there are departments, but we do have a, substantial, I would say, level of representation of people from communities of color and also women in that level of leadership as well. So I would say, that is notable. And I think that is a step. It indicates a step in the right direction, because a lot of those appointments and a lot of those hires were made during Mayor Fulop's administration. But yes, someone said, one second, sorry, I'm trying to read the questions while I'm speaking. But I would say there's definitely work to be done in terms of, leadership and hiring. My office currently is not, a direct force in the hiring of city leadership. And so that would be, an HR and an administration question. But I would like to point, everyone's attention also to the strides that we've made in division director and office director leadership since 2013. So I'm trying to read, questions on the side. 1 second. Repeat the percentage of city spending with companies that are 51% owned by women, minorities, veterans, people with differently abled. One moment. I just wanted to pull up my notes. And so in 2018, and so this is the combined spend for minority, women, and veteran-owned firms. So in terms of data for our spend with LGBT and disability-owned businesses, when we're looking at the past few years, we recently changed our vendor forms to include those questions to capture data on disability-owned and LGBT-owned firms. And so in the purchasing disparity study, there wasn't enough data to support or conduct, a strong or robust analysis because that data hadn't been collected during those years. We did make that change recently, and so we hope that moving forward we'll have more substantial data. And also, it's a concern or an issue of making firms feel comfortable with sharing that information with us, and so now that our office has increased its awareness, and we've kind of been going through this trust building, we feel that businesses will be more likely to share that information with us, and so hopefully we'll have that moving forward. But in 2018, we spent $16.5 million with minority, women, and veteran-owned firms, $16.6 million in 2018, and then $19.4 million in 2020. In 2020, that represents 14% of our goods and services spend. The city currently has a goal of achieving 20%. So we're trying to reach that 20% mark of our goods and service spend. And that's only looking at dollars that have gone to for-profit businesses. So this doesn't include, money that the city spends on utilities or rent or payments to nonprofits or government institutions. Just, apples to apples for-profit businesses for direct goods and services. Next question. What would you say is the biggest barrier that keeps underrepresented businesses from becoming vendors? So this is something that I can, address right now, but also if you're interested in learning more about our efforts in terms of supplier diversity, we are actually having a community meeting on Tuesday. It's going to be on Microsoft Teams. You can register, sign up to receive the link to join that live event on our website, jcnj.org/ODI. And the professor who led our purchasing disparity study will be presenting as well. But from the study, there is a combination of factors that present challenges. One, for a lot of firms, depending on the size of the contract and the value of the contract. The value of the contract really dictates how we can buy certain things. So for under a certain level of spend, we can reach out to businesses that we know or are aware of or that are on our supplier diversity directory, and just obtain a direct quote. But if it goes over a certain dollar amount, our local public contracts law does require us to go through certain processes, have certain forms, and requires the businesses to have certain certifications to do that level of work. So depending on the level, some of the common barriers that we see are, one, businesses just don't know where to start. They don't know who to contact. They don't know, where to look, and they don't know how to get their foot in the door, essentially. Two, we see apprehension around paperwork for larger contracts. So when you get into contracts that have to be put out to public bid, you have to prepare a bid proposal. And sometimes that can be hundreds of pages to review, a specification. You have to fill out a lot of forms. And if it's new to you, sometimes businesses just don't see it being worth it, especially if there are larger firms that are, regularly competing and can maybe offer a better price because of their scale. So third challenge related to that is capacity. So being able to provide a large volume of goods or handle large scale projects. And then I would say, lastly, too, with doing business with government, you have to have your business taxes in order. A lot of businesses don't want to work with government because they don't want to have the government involved in their personal business. And so I think that all of that does stem from, a lot of issues that are present in our country, though, involving minority, women, veteran-owned firms. We especially know with communities of color, there has been, historically a distrust of government. And so we're trying to work on that and try to make businesses recognize that we're here to help now. Not that we haven't before, but that we're here to help and that we want to make sure that they're comfortable navigating the process. I'm going to look at his questions. Sounds like the Office of Diversity and Inclusion is focused on businesses. Is that accurate? If so, is the Cultural Affairs Office focused on the community? And so I would say that, so the Office of Diversity and Inclusion does focus on businesses. So yes, that is true outwardly. So outwardly, we focus on businesses. We also focus on connecting people with opportunities and jobs on tax abatement projects as well. And so I mentioned that we do work, some work in workforce diversity in regards to connecting individuals with opportunities on tax abatement projects or opportunities to be laborers on construction projects throughout the city, because developers and general contractors need to meet certain requirements for their construction contracts. So in terms of the role of cultural affairs is really responsible for a lot of our arts work, events, 4th of July, street fairs. And so they are more outwardly focused. So I hope that answers your question. To your knowledge, does the county have a similar office? Yes, the county has the Office of Business Opportunity, which is located on Bergen Avenue, and they focus on minority, women, and veteran-owned business utilization as well, strictly. They, like us, we also help businesses obtain certifications that are offered by the state, Port Authority, New Jersey Transit, and these certifications essentially verify that your business is owned by the specific demographic that you claim. That's important when you look at certain policy options. Some of these the city will consider as we draft our supplier diversity action plan. Policy options such as set-aside programs, which are opportunities for us to provide greater advantages or provide a smaller competitive environment for our diverse suppliers looking to participate in public contracts over our bid threshold, which is $44,000. And so the office at Hudson County, the Office of Business Opportunity, is our parallel in that regard. Yes.
Awesome. You've covered all the questions so smoothly. Thank you. So you mentioned the supplier diversity meeting you're going to have. Any other announcements or any other information that you want to get out there now?
So right now, the supplier diversity action plan is our primary focus. The target audience for that is business owners who may sell a good or service that the city buys. And to be honest, there are always new things that the city might need. So recently, our council president hosted a very nice Women's Day celebration for women in the city, and she needed to purchase gift baskets, and she needed to purchase event materials. And so she was able to find an array of local women-owned businesses to provide all of the favors, little tokens. So I would encourage businesses to connect and register with our office. Also, join the meeting if you're interested in just, learning about the city's utilization of diverse businesses and being, looped in with what's going on there. But I would definitely encourage business owners to attend.
Thank you. We appreciate your time today. We know you're very busy. Thanks for covering all that you do. And thanks for honestly smoothly going through these questions. Okay. Oh, and we have one final question.
Do we work with high school students for summer employment? So that is covered by our Department of Youth Development and Recreation. They run the city's summer works program. Sorry, JCSI. JCSI is the Jersey City Summer Internship Program. And so that's ran out of their department. They also have another program, Jersey City Summer Works, that targets like 18 to 24 range. So, young adults who, may be in college or maybe not, that are looking for employment as well, but that's ran out of that department.
Okay.
We do sometimes have interns though from that program. So there are opportunities maybe for, high school students or young adults, college students during the summer to intern with our office.
Okay. Great. Well, once again, thank you for your time today. We definitely put the link in to people to head over to the DNI site and, have a great weekend. So
thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to head into do some housekeeping, go into the announcements. But first of all, I want to kind of remind everybody who's enjoying this beautiful meeting. If you're not a member, please, go to JSQCA.org and sign up. Membership is $25, and there's more information in our newsletter too. So yes, once again, JSQCA.com. Thank you, and please learn about the great membership and the committees that you can partake in to help the great Journal Square community. So with that, I'm going to go into the announcements for all of our committees. So the first one is the Green Committee. So their meeting is on St. Patrick's Day at 7 p.m. Same time it always is, the third Wednesday of the month. The speakers are going to be Melissa Kozekowicz. She's the city's Chief Innovation Officer, and she's going to discuss our composting program. And Sonia Dublin is the Assistant Director of DPW, is going to discuss recycling. Also, the Transportation Committee wants to announce and let everybody know that they're going to begin their walking audits the week of March 22nd. And also, our committee chair has been in touch with our city commissioners Aponte Lipsky and O'Day, as well as Councilperson Bogiano, regarding the lack of streetlights on the new Central Avenue extension. So the county expects to install temporary generator-powered lighting in the next coming days, and they're going to follow up to be sure this is completed, as that block is very dark. There is a community cleanup tomorrow, March 14th, from 1 to 3. If everybody can meet at the VIP diner if they want to participate in this, and equipment for cleaning will be provided. Once again, from our History Committee, Bergen Square Day is October 23rd, and those wishing to volunteer in any capacity can email history@jsqca.com with Bergen Square Day in the subject line. And if you wish to be a vendor with a table, you can register at bergensquareday.com. The Homeless Outreach Committee is working on a business plan to create supportive housing. And last but definitely not least, our Clean Committee is sending outreach letters to negligent properties, including businesses. We're reaching out to the Board of Ed to highlight some maintenance issues around the schools in our area, PS 23, 31, and 11. We're putting together a list of problematic issues within the system to report to the DPW. Sorry. And we're going to follow up with the city regarding the unsightly condition of the city bike stations in our boundaries. So that is all of our great updates. Thank you, guys. The construction and planning meeting is Wednesday, April 7th at 6:30 p.m. And it's going to be with Namdar to review the design of the Homestead Place pedestrian street. And the Green, yes, I did say the Green Committee meeting. And the information about the Green Committee meeting, the Zoom information is in the chat box for everybody to get. Our next meeting is April 10th. Our speakers have not been finalized yet, but we will definitely, get that out to everyone. So I want to thank our speakers one more time for giving us some of their time today. and informing us on what's going on in the city with vaccinations and the D&I efforts. So, and I just want to thank you guys for just welcoming me in the chat and coming to this meeting. So, if that's it, thank you, everybody. Just enjoy the rest of your weekend. It's beautiful outside. So, thanks.